Greetings. I'm Vicki Tillman from Seven Sisters Homeschool. For those of you guys who don't know me, I have graduated my 5 kids all the way through homeschooling. And two of them have their PhDs now and are living successful lives. One is a professional photographer, who that was always her life goal, and she's doing just fine with her college degree and her connections and networking that she's doing. My younger two are both school teachers, and they have wonderful, successful lives. And so, homeschooling has helped and worked and been the right thing for them in their lives. So, one of the things that we learned over the years was how to find curriculum that meets their different needs, because I definitely had teens that had opinions about how they were going to do their high school education. And as well, they should. That is a good thing. So, all right, well, let me get started. We want to talk about finding and choosing curriculum for high schoolers. So if you've been homeschooling for a while, you know every teen's different. And you probably already noticed that there's not one right way to homeschool, especially high school. You really notice the differences in personality and needs and goals and all by the time teens get to high school. So one of the things I'd love to encourage you is try not to allow anyone to trick you into comparing yourself and your curriculum choices and your teens' needs to theirs. So, sometimes you get folks who have a very rigid idea about how homeschooling should be done, especially at high school. And that is great for them and their teens, but it's your job to find what's best for your teens and to set those goals and work together with your teens to find the styles and curriculum and things that they need for a successful high school time. So, all righty. Well, let's talk about the necessities of homeschooling high school. So, as teens are in high school, they've got to earn credits, and they've got to have that, transcript, because that's just the way things work. And a lot of homeschooling is at the core courses is a textbook oriented kind of thing, but there's all kinds of textbooks, and there are ways to earn credits that don't have to do with the textbook. So we want to look at in both a teen's way of learning and your way of teaching or guiding curriculum, and see if we can mesh those and then key into curriculum that will help. So, all right, most of you guys have heard the philosophy of learning styles for teens. So you take any philosophy or any ideas about learning styles with a grain of salt. It's as useful to you as it's useful, and if it's not useful to you, don't pay attention to it. But the way it's being framed these days is learning styles you can look at in a VARK method, VARK. So V is visual. So a visual learner needs pictures in curriculum. So, when I was learning, and even as my other hat in life is I'm a counselor, and when I have a continuing education class and I have a textbook, I prefer to also have some videos to watch because I'm a visual learner. So textbooks can include photos, diagrams, illustrations, or videos to add on that help visual learners take the information they're reading and file it into their brains well. So when you're looking at curriculum for a more visual learner, you want to find curriculum that has some color or pictures or diagrams in it. So another kind of learner is an auditory learner. So that's a learner who needs someone to talk it out with, so if they're going to read material, they also need to either have it explained to them, in a way they can hear, or to talk back and forth, and to sort things out. So those are great learners for like a co-op class or homeschool group classes or online classes, where somebody is explaining the material so they can listen to it as part of their learning process. Or, mom and or dad sitting down with them and talking out a lesson. What did you learn today? That kind of a thing. All right. So it's visual, auditory, and then there's the reading, writing students. So some teens absolutely love reading and writing papers. They just love it, love it, love it. So when I was a high schooler, I actually liked writing papers. And I love reading books. So you would say I'm a visual and a reading writing learner myself. One of my kids, who now has his doctoral degree in rhetoric and is teaching at a university in Korea, he is natural born reader writer. That was just his learning style, and he would write research papers for fun in high school because that was his thing. My other kids, not so much. But anyway, so we definitely had for him a writing heavy curriculum because he liked that. All of my kids and your kids too will do a certain amount of reading in high school because that's how you get through textbooks and reading lists. And so some of that can be auditory, like listening to audiobooks. But a lot of these reading, writing kids actually like the print versions of things, whether that's a digital print, so digital textbooks, digital, online Kindle books that they just like it. So that's a kind of reader. Then there's the last one. So you have visual, auditory, reading, writing, and then the last one is a kinesthetic learner. So that's your teen that's on the go. Needs to work with their hands, needs to get up and move around. Teens that build and explore and create. They might be artistic or they might be practical, but they need to be engaged. And so you look for curriculum that is more interactive, or you look for alternative credits where that's possible. So, teens who are very kinesthetic will love earning their history credits with field trips and projects and hands-on kind of learning. It's science kind of things, heavy on the lab work. So those are some really good like alternative kind of ways to earn credits. And if you're not real familiar with that, I'll put links in the handout to how to do a credit by logging hours for some of the kinesthetic learning for teens. Okay, all right. So that's a teen learning. In the handout, I will also give you a link to the VARC quiz. So there's a quiz online that where teens can look at and kind of explore. It's really simple and it's free if they're not sure what their learning style is. So, okay. All right. Now let's talk about teaching styles or teaching methods. So as moms, we have opinions usually on how we feel most comfortable bringing education into our family, especially by the time they get to high school. Because a lot of times it's not just them, unless we have an only child, we have several kids in the house. We have different needs going on in our lives with responsibilities that we have and they have. And so we want to pay attention to the teaching style that's going to work for us right now and what's our overall kind of our rhythms for teaching. So generally teaching styles are kind of like a continuum from very structured to very unstructured. And so let me go over that a little bit with you. So on the highly structured end of the curriculum, and again, there's not one right way to homeschool. It's like we're homeschooling because we want to do the best for what our teens need and what we need too. So we matter in this formula. So the highly structured end of the curriculum, there's a school at home formula. So those are usually online programs. Like if you work with Abeka's online learning, it's basically, a camera filming a classroom. And so students are kind of part of that classroom setting. Or there's the online programs like Keystone or K-12, which are just basically classes in the traditional format, but it's online. So teens can participate, um, in a traditional learning setting digitally. So there's your school at home. Then there's, next to that highly structured, a very structured approach, and that's just classical textbooks for every course across the board. And so that's you're covering what you need to cover for each of the subjects. And so you get a textbook for all the core courses and for any electives, and then very carefully use a syllabus for each course, and are good with scheduling. Feels good. We're going to do this at this time and this at this time. So that generally a textbook approach is very predictable, and so works well with people who like rhythms that are very clear. All right, along with that, very similarly, is classical education. And so you're using a lot of textbooks, but from the classical philosophy. So classical models of education lean into the ancient philosophers. So you're studying Aristotle and Socrates and the Latin. So all the teens have been learning Latin if they've been in classical since they were kids. They've been learning it right along. By high school, they're learning logic. So there are some, very big co-ops all over the country who are using the classical model, and really fits well for teens who have an enjoyment of structure and rhythm and philosophic and Latin oriented things. So it's very exciting for them. All right, a little bit less structured than the classical model is the Charlotte Mason model. And so those of you who are familiar with Charlotte Mason, is very popular in a lot of homeschool communities and co-ops, where you're doing reading and narrative and writing, but also a lot of outdoors and experiencing beauty, learning how to be observant, hands-on experiences. So it's a blend of the textbook classical kind of approach and a hands-on approach blend. So those are often, you find those in co-ops or one family things, or you can find it online, that there are some online schools who are doing the classical approach. So one of those is Dreaming Spires. I'll put links in the handout for all these. Okay, then you go down towards the middle of the continuing from structured to unstructured, and kind of slap in the middle right near Charlotte Mason is a goal-driven homeschooling model. And so that's where parents and teens feel best sitting down together and setting goals for the year, and then choosing either textbook or credit driven or online course or dual education. So different methods are used according to what the goals are for that year, and also the long-term goals. Like we always, goal-oriented homeschooling is you go like, what do we want our teens to have experienced and be like when they march across the stage or the backyard or whatever at graduation? And so that's really mixture, very eclectic version. So you're working on long-term goals, short-term goals, and matching curriculum and experiences to those goals. So that's, you can tell by the way I'm talking about this, that Seven Sisters Homeschool is very goal driven. That's how we raised our kids, and share curriculum built around that kind of a model. All right, but like I said, there's not one right way to homeschool high school. Then on the other side of the continuum of structured to less structured, you have the more relaxed homeschooling, project-based, interest-based, unschooling approaches, and those all kind of blend back and forth. Basically, what those are based on is, what are my teens most interested in, and giving them freedom to explore those. So they will use textbooks if they're interested. They'll do a lot of hands-on learning, a lot of discussion, interaction with parents and others, classes where it is invigorating to them. And there's can be totally on the far end of unschooling, is you just figure out, as they explore, how each of these applies to, English or science or history. So they kind of learn everything all at once. So those require parents sitting down at some point with the teens and saying, how are we recording, what we are learning here? So what you end up with these teens and this learning style with parents is kids that are very interested in what they're learning, so they're very engaged in what they're learning. So if you're curious about learning more about more project-based or unschooling, if you check out our Canadian friend Teresa Wiedrich, she has at Living the Charmed Life, has lots of podcasts and Facebook Lives and things like that on doing more project-based kind of things. So I'll put links in the credits. So, okay. All right. So what we want then is to find curriculum that matches our teens' VARK, their visual, auditory, reading, writing, or kinesthetic, and our kind of learning style. So let me give you some pointers. So when you're in the textbook area, so if you've got visual or reading, writing kind of learners, and it's a subject that they just got to use a textbook for anyway, then one good place to look for suggestions is Kathy Duffy's website. So she does reviews expansively on all different kind of curriculum. So again, in the handout, I will put links to her website, and she's very good at doing the pros and the cons of different curricula. So if you don't have any experience in a certain subject, that's a really good place to start. Another good place for textbooks is if you have a state curriculum fair or conference, and you can get to that and go to the used book table and talk to, because there's usually a used curriculum section, and parents will be selling things they use, and they will give you their honest opinions, and you can, look at stuff. Plus the vendors are always there to let you look at curriculum, and you will at least know by looking if it fits your kind of rhythm. Like for me, I just needed textbooks with pictures in them and, plenty of white space, because I'm a visual thing. So for courses that I was going to be interactive with my teens, I was looking for a curriculum with pictures. So those are good places to start for textbooky, traditional textbook kind of things. Classical education, so usually you are working within a system, so a co-op or a website, and they will have favorite curriculum that they will suggest that you use. But places to look are Classical Academic Press, Memoria Press, Veritas Press. So those are, they follow that classical model. Then for Charlotte Mason, if you're looking for something online, look at Dreaming Spires Home Learning, and our British friend Kat Patrick has just big Charlotte Mason, so very, very oriented towards the Charlotte Mason ideas if you want online. And then there's a website, Mater Mibilis, um, for the Catholic homeschoolers who do the Charlotte Mason style. So again, I'll put links, all of these in the hands out. So a lot of Charlotte Mason, though, is you are using experiences and real books. And so you can get book lists online in a lot of places. Seven Sisters Homeschool, we have some blog posts with, favorite book lists on different topics, because we ask our teens, what do you want to read? Or, parents, what were the best books your teens read in high school? So then goal-driven homeschooling is that mix of curriculum styles. So I will put links to how to earn a credit by experience rather than a textbook in the handout, because teens who have the goal of they're going to trade school, or they have an elective they really want to just do kind of in a project oriented sort of way. We log hours for that and they can just go for it. But then for textbooks, especially goal driven, is we want to look for levelable curriculum. So that's a basic curriculum with extra interesting add-ons that teens can take, so that they're doing either average or college prep, and then adding on for honors if they're going to really be interested in a topic, or they're applying to a college and their college major is in that topic. So like my one son was a history major in college. And so when he wanted to look very attractive when applying to colleges and maybe get some scholarships, he wanted to make sure he had some high-powered honors credits on his transcript, and in the history area and in English language arts, because those go hand in hand so much. And so the curriculum that he used had instructions on how to take the average curriculum and bring it up. So that was very level 5 is what you'd say, high powered. So, self-promotion here, Seven Sisters Homeschool, that's our curriculum. It's made that way with the levelable instructions for our courses, because that's what our teens wanted. And so for our teens who were not college bound, or were taking a course in an area that wasn't in their major and weren't going to really need that to get into college, they could do just basic college prep and just follow the textbook basic things and not do add-ons. So I will put some how-to articles also, because you can actually level up a lot of curriculum, and so I will add that. Okay, then for our relaxed homeschooling, the project-based, the unschooling, is I will put links to some people that we have worked with a lot. So our friend Teresa Wiedrich, our friend Julie Polenko. So some how-tos for how to connect teens with resources so that they can really explore their interests. Also, we have some really fun for younger kids, and that's not high school, but hands-on projects from our friend Angela Taylor. And then you look with our other speakers here at the conference that they will have some things that you can do some add-ons to. Okay, all right, so basically, when you're looking for a curriculum fit, textbook-wise, really look at Kathy Duffy's website, or some of the big publishers also will help, Christian book distributors, or some forums. Like, it's not that hard to homeschool high school on Facebook is a big group where you can just throw questions, and it's not one publisher, it's just like there's thousands and thousands of members in this group, and you can say, I have a more auditory learner. Anybody have a favorite curriculum for them? And so if you haven't joined that group, I highly recommend. It's not that hard to homeschool high school on Facebook. Okay, and then if you have any questions or want some suggestions, please feel free to email me at Vicky at Seven Sisters. That's the number seven. Vicky at Seven Sisters Homeschool.com, and we'll love to answer questions or join our Facebook group, Seven Sisters Homeschool. And then look in here in the handouts for this class, and hopefully you will get enough to get you started. And remember, there's not one right way to homeschool high school. And if you don't like it, you can always toss it. And for the times where you just got to plug through and use a curriculum that you don't like or your team doesn't like, just because it's that time of life, like you just got to push through. That's character development. That teaches teens growth mindset. So you'll get through that too. So, all right. Well, God bless you on your high school adventures.